History's verdict on Ramza Beoulve is singular, stark, and immutable. Not the valiant, gallant knight. Not the proud son of House Beoulve. Not even the slayer of a Lucavi within Lionel's hallowed halls. Instead, heretic. No furious outburst. No impassioned decree. Only a cold, formal pronouncement. Recorded. Rehearsed. Replicated until a lie hardened into irrefutable truth. The Church of Glabados sought no proof. It merely issued its edict. And with that utterance, the very fabric of the War of the Lions began to unravel. By the moment of his excommunication, Ramza had already walked a solitary path. Brothers estranged. Former comrades now adversaries. And beneath the shifting sands of political ambition, he had unearthed a truth far more terrifying. The conflict devouring Isilud was no organic struggle for succession. It was a meticulously crafted fabrication, a grand curation. The Lion War, then, did not ignite with a monarch's demise. It was kindled by the manipulation of truth, by sermons that sanctified slaughter, by sacred relics, mere stones, elevated to instruments of divine, coercive will. Ramza's transgression was not outright rebellion. It was the defiant act of refusal. He would not conflate faith with dominion. He would not wield powers he did not comprehend. He would not allow silence to fester into complicity. For this, and this alone, he was branded heretic. And once that damning epithet was spoken, the inexorable gears of fate began to turn. This pivotal chapter marks the true cost of conviction. The erosion of sanctuary. Allies will dwindle. The Church, in its ruthless pursuit, will shed its sacred mask. Power, unburdened by pretense, will reveal its true, unyielding face. This is the genesis of the Valiant, and the calculated, cruel beginning of Ramza Beoulve's deliberate erasure from the annals of Isilud. Fort Besselat stands inviolate, its defiant banners snapping taut against the heavens, a cruel irony for a realm already fractured beneath them. Within its stone heart, Duke Goltana convenes the southern sky. The air is thick with the scent of parchment and ambition. Maps unfurled, reports are delivered with military precision. The language, too, is disciplined, efficient, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing outside. But Count Sidolphus Orlandu does not share its sterile efficiency. He has tasted too much war, spilled too much blood, to mistake mere momentum for righteous cause. The 50 Years' War, a gaping wound in Isilud's history, had taught him the bitter cost. He had buried men who believed in banners just as fiercely as these. When Goltana, ablaze with urgency, presses for immediate mobilization, to crown Ovelia and crush Larg before his roots deepen, Orlandu's voice, a gravelly counterpoint, cleaves the chamber's silence. Another campaign, he warns, will not restore the kingdom. It will consume it, hollow it out from within. Goltana's patience, a thin veneer, shatters. He excoriates Orlandu with an open, scathing fury. The realm, he thunders, cannot afford a wisdom that masquerades as timidity. Legitimacy, he argues, demands the immediate assertion of force. Should the southern sky falter now, it will concede the throne to northern ambition. Ovelia's coronation, a fragile promise, means nothing without the unyielding defense of steel. A heavy silence descends, pressing on every man present. Orlando does not yield, but neither does he prevail. His counsel, born of hard-won experience, is sacrificed upon the altar of political necessity. At Fort Besselat, war sheds its raiment of tragedy. It becomes, instead, an inescapable obligation. And obligation, once it takes hold, is a burden far heavier to refuse. The pervasive coal smoke of Gollund conceals more than just industry. In a grimy alley, far from the polished halls of academia, Orbonne Durai had blundered. Not a political misstep, but a profoundly practical one. A scholarly pursuit of rumor had led him directly into a den of cutthroats. 3 thieves advanced, blades glinting low, movements honed to predatory precision. Behind them 2 chemists stood poised, vials drawn, the acrid tang of alchemical powder stinging the air. From the rear, an orator watched, his voice a steady, insidious hum, bending wills without steel. Orbonne was no warrior. He was a scholar. And scholars, even the brightest, are mortal. Ramza's band burst into the alley as the first strike fell. No parley, no negotiation, steel met steel. Mustadio, swift and disruptive, neutralized the chemists before their volatile concoctions could ignite. Agrius cleaved a path through the thieves with practiced, brutal efficiency. Ramza closed on the orator, silencing words before they could become weapons. Then, Orbonne raised a hand. A single, resonant invocation echoed. Galaxy stop. The very air solidified. Motion ceased. Blades hung suspended, mid-arc. Even sound seemed snared between heartbeats. When time resumed, the ambushers' advantage had evaporated. And Ramza understood. Orbonne Durai was more than merely curious. He was a force, dangerous in ways Idealist was utterly unprepared to comprehend. The alley breathes again, filled only with the lingering coal smoke that now veils the recent violence. Bodies lie still, cooling. Orbonne Durai slowly lowers his hand, a gesture almost of withdrawal, as if unsure how much of his extraordinary power should have been revealed. Ramza, ever observant, studies him with an unnerving intensity. That, Ramza states, his voice low, was no common spell. Orbonne adjusts his collar and tunic, a flicker of something akin to embarrassment across his face. He dismisses the feat as a mere defensive art, a byproduct of arduous study, not ambition. Yet beneath the feigned modesty, a meticulous calculation is evident. He understands the potency of galaxy stop to a witness, how rapidly rumor transmutes into threat. Ramza offers his name, Ramza Beoulve. No mention of his noble lineage, no knightly title. Orbonne pauses, recognition dawning not from fleeting gossip, but from the indelible scrolls of history. The name Beoulve still carried weight, but he did not press the matter, offering instead a sincere, measured gratitude. Their paths for now diverge. Orbonne turns towards Zeltenia, Ramza northward to Lesalia, to meet with his lord brother Zalbaag and attempt to bring reason to the growing madness. They shake hands. No grand alliance is forged, no solemn oath sworn, only a profound, shared recognition. 2 men, acutely aware that the official narrative of Idealist is beginning to stray dangerously from the truth, and neither intends to let it do so unopposed. Lesalia greets Ramza not as scion of Beoulve, but as a disruption to its carefully wired ledger of power. Zalbaag looms over a desk still damp with ink, a city at war lighting the room with its tremors. No ceremony, only the blunt currency of tension. He bids Ramza sit, mentions Alma's presence in the capital, and offers a surface-level cordiality that barely masks the hinge-pen question. Can you not end this fighting? The inquiry is not a summons to rebellion. It is a plea for legacy. An appeal to the Beoulve oath. The ancient duty to shield the people rather than chase hollow glory. Zalbaag condemns it as naivety, a comforting lie dressed as virtue. Ramza refuses to let the ground settle. He presses. The war is no simple duel between Larg and Goltana. It is theater, staged for outcomes. With Dicedarg's hands at the script's edges. Ovilia's abduction, he insists, was calculated to derail Goltana's regency. If Ovilia dies, the crown will brand Goltana a traitor and stitch the realm to the northern banner. The logic cuts cleanly through the room. And Zalbaag, for once, does not deny the reasoning. He denies the accusation instead, letting bloodline dictate his response. Do you accuse our brother? Ramza challenges whether Zalbaag truly knows nothing. That moment shatters the room's veneer. Zalbaag rises, fury spilling past restraint, declaring that Ramza's distrust is a greater crime. Loyalty to kin must eclipse all suspicion. And then, the shard of truth lands. Your mother's common blood forever stains you common. You are not fit to bear the Beoulve name. The words fall like iron. Ramza is stunned. And before either can steady themselves, a knight bursts in. Orlandu, breaking through at Dugera Pass. The war demands Zalbaag's attention. He exits. The argument unfinished. The fracture complete. The postern gate offers a momentary hush. A thin veil of quiet clinging to stone and snow. Far from counsels and commands, Alma finds Ramza alone, a figure carved from rumor and rumor's consequences. She has heard enough whispers to know something has gone wrong. Suspicions trailing him through Lesalia, the careful scrutiny of the church, the soft but persistent label heretic, whispered with reverence and fear. Ramza does not lay the entire burden at her feet. He speaks in careful fragments, enough to steady her, enough to bleed away none of the truth. The war is guided by unseen hands, and the church does not merely watch. It weighs, judges, and sometimes wounds. There are stones, relics, concealed within gilded facades, relics that pretend to bless what they bless only in name. Alma does not question. She believes him with a faith tempered by time, a faith that keeps ruins from becoming ruinous. Then the courtyard changes its mood. Temple knights enter with the gravity of a closing door. Zalmor Lucian steps forward, composed, immovable, his voice a measured verdict. Ramza must submit to inquiry. Texts deem heretical, a charge of unlawful interference in church affairs. There is no mere rumor. Alma steps towards her brother, a sudden gravity between them. Zalmor signals the knights with quiet authority, and the accusation hardens into law before their very eyes. The courtyard, so recently quiet, now breathes with the cold breath of sanctioned violence. Zalmor Lucian, voice unwavering, issues no plea, but an order. Steel answers, drawing cold light from the pale sky. 2 temple knights advance first, a disciplined wall of shields and blade, trained to subdue the living, not to claim the dead. Behind them, 2 monks step with lethal calm, their wrapped fists and grounded stances speaking of brutal precision. This is no frenzied mob, but an execution of arrest, measured and precise. Alma stands apart. A cleric, unarmed in spirit, yet unwavering in her faith. She does not flee. She does not cast carelessly. Her prayers, whispered against the din of combat, mend wounds even as they bloom. A fragile defiance, sustaining Ramza's dwindling band against the Church's relentless embrace. Ramza, however, seeks no blood. His sole desire is exit. The knights press their formation, constricting space while the monks strike with punishing accuracy, aiming to break spirits before breaking bodies. Zalmor holds his distance, weaving holy arts not in a fit of rage, but with the cold, unyielding conviction of a righteous judge. In his eyes, this is justice. One by one, Ramza's companions carve a path through the unyielding formation. Shields splinter, breath falters. The monks fall, their measured calm yielding to the chaotic truth of battle. At last, Zalmor stands alone, defeated yet unrepentant, his conviction unbroken. The courtyard, finally quiet once more, echoes with a message clearer than any pronouncement. The Church has made its position unmistakably, brutally clear. Zalmor withdraws with the remaining knights, leaving the courtyard unsettled, yet momentarily bereft of steel's cold hum. Alma reaches Ramza first, relief flashing across her face. Brief as a candle snuffed by a draft. He confirms she remains unharmed, then returns his attention to the matter that looms larger than any blade. The Office of Inquisition, somehow privy to Orosite's existence, weighs on him with an unfamiliar weight. Such knowledge did not surface by chance. He questions whether the Church itself lends its strength to Delita, and if so, what price it intends to exact in return. Alma listens, then speaks with careful gravity. If the Zodiac Stones are real, she believes she has glimpsed one herself. Ramza asks for its location, a hunger in his voice that betrays more than curiosity. She does not yield the answer freely. She insists on accompanying him. He refuses, the danger escalating with every breath they take. He will not risk her life again. Alma counters with stark logic. She has already stood against the Inquisition. In their eyes, she is as much a heretic as he. Dicedarg will not shield House Beoulve from church scrutiny by shielding her from consequence. Ramza cannot deny the peril in her reasoning. The stone she saw rests at Orbonne Monastery. A crystal engraved with the likeness of a virgin maid. Virgo. Ramza contemplates going alone, but Alma's presence is a shield as much as blade. She reminds him that a branded heretic will not pass Orbonne's gates unchallenged. He needs her. Reluctantly, he consents, only for the journey to Orbonne. Together, they depart, strides steady against a world that glares from every corner with verdicts and consequences. By the time Ramza and Alma reach the monastery's deepest vaults, the sacred confines have already been breached. Priests lie wounded upon the cold stone, their agony echoing in the lower passages where unfamiliar voices now hunt, methodical and unholy, for something hidden. Elder Simon is found amidst the fallen, a shattered sentinel barely clinging to consciousness. "They came seeking the stone," he gasps, his voice a ragged whisper. The Virgo stone, he explains, is no mere relic, but a crown jewel of Idealist itself. Entrusted to Orbonne with Princess Ovelia, a tangible proof of her royal blood. Its possession, therefore, is not symbolic. It is political. Ramza presses, his gaze sharp. Who sent them? With a monumental effort, Simon delivers the confession. High Confessor Marcel. The Church, he reveals, has deliberately stoked this war, maneuvering Dukes Larg and Goltana into a mutual exhaustion. As kingdoms burn and faith in the crown falters, the Church prepares to seize its own ascendancy. The Zodiac Stones, Simon claims, will revive the legend of the Zodiac Braves and reclaim the people's devotion. Ramza challenges him, the memory of a cardinal's grotesque transformation burning in his mind. Such power rivals legions. Marcel seeks more than devotion. He seeks absolute dominance. Simon's eyes, ancient and weary, study Ramza, finding in him the unsettling echo of Balbinus. Before giving chase to the intruders, Ramza makes a grim pact, entrusting Alma with the volatile Arisite. If he falls, she is to cast it into the deepest depths of the sea. Better destroyed, he vows, than claimed by such ambition. The upper vaults offer no sanctuary, only a corridor's stark breath between danger and flight. 3 dragoons anchor the front, spears angled for lethal leverage in the claustrophobic arches. Their rhythm is flawless. Leap, land, retreat, repeat. They are not here to hold ground. They are here to stall, to delay the inevitable clash that gnaws at Ramza's nerve. Behind them, 2 time mages chant with cold precision. Their cadence bends the air, haste to one, slow to another, turning motion into a weapon. Time itself becomes a contested terrain, each second stretched or snapped to corral Ramza's advance. A lone chemist lingers at the rear, methodical and quiet, nursing stamina back with practiced ease. No wasted motion, no fluttering panic, only focus and the alchemical calm of a surgeon at work. This is no looting, this is extraction. Ramza reads the tactic at once. The dragoons form the shield. The time mages warp the tempo. The chemist sustains the assault. They must shatter the formation before the rhythm can lock Ramza into a looping nightmare of altered time. Steel bites into magic, and timing eclipses tempo. A dragoon falls, then another, and the nexus shatters. Yet below, an unseen adversary slips deeper into the vaults. Unseen to the eye, yet felt in the tremor of the stones. Ramza moves after, resolve steeled, strides steady. He follows the echoing unknown into the deeper dark. The third level of the vaults is not chaos, but a grim tapestry of organized resistance. 2 knights hold the 4, shields interlocked, blades steady, forming an unbreakable bulwark. Above them, on the fractured stone steps, 2 archers stand sentinel, arrows already nocked, ready to punish any transgression. Further back, a lone summoner traces arcane circles of chalk and ash, weaving spells to pull power from beyond the vaulted ceilings. At their heart stands Knight Templar Isilud Tengille. He commands not with shouts or threats, but with a gaze that measures, calculates, and observes. Ramza advances, a single demand echoing through the stone. "Return the stone," Isilud answers with a venomous disdain, his words sharp as a blade. "Mongrel, heretic, traitor to your own house. A Beoulve who spurns his brothers, a noble who defies the very order meant to preserve Evilise." The summoner's eidolon crashes into the ancient floor, its impact scattering Ramza's companions. Arrows whistle, punishing every misstep. The knights press, disciplined and unyielding. Between the clang of steel, Isilud preaches of Saint Ajora's vision, a world purged of class, a promised land freed from corruption. Revolution, he insists, demands sacrifice. The crown rots. The nobility must fall. Ramza rejects his twisted premise. This war, he retorts, was engineered. The stones grant power that enslaves under the guise of salvation. He has seen a cardinal become a Lucavi. Isilud denies it, or perhaps refuses to believe. When the knights fall and the summoner's circle breaks, Ramza forces Isilud to yield ground. Wounded but not broken, the Templar withdraws by sorcery, the stone clutched in his grasp. Our next meeting, he vows, will end differently. Silence descends upon the vault, thick and heavy. The church's intentions are no longer obscured. They are laid bare, stark as the stone itself. Ramza reaches the upper vaults only to witness a scene that wrenches his heart. Alma, seized, dragged by Isilud towards the lower passages, and before their retreating column, radiant in polished gold plate, stands Wiegraf Foals. No longer the rebel captain, no longer the commander of forgotten men, but a knight of the church. For a chilling moment, Ramza is frozen, disbelieving. Wiegraf's voice, calm and authoritative, slices through the air, issuing orders. Isilud is to withdraw with the girl. The monastery will be secured. The stone must not be lost. As the chamber clears, Wiegraf turns, confronting Ramza fully. "I have lived for this," he states, a grim conviction in his eyes. Ramza's answer is raw disbelief. When they last met, Wiegraf fought fiercely to expose the aristocracy's rot, cloaked in the green mantle of a corpse. Now he serves the very hierarchy he once condemned. Agria steps forward, blade drawn, her gaze unwavering, understanding the grim weight of Templar armor. Ramza invokes the ghost of Meluda, reminding Wiegraf of her sacrifice, the conviction that stirred common men, the dignity of their shared dream. Wiegraf does not flinch. "Dreams fade without power," he replies, his voice cold and resolute. "Justice without strength is illusion. The crown is corrupt, the nobility decayed. Revolution," he insists, "demands a force equal to the task." Ramza rejects the corrupted creed. Borrowed power defiles the cause it claims to serve. The Zodiac Stones do not ennoble men, they enslave them. Steel answers rhetoric. A black mage ignites the stone floor. Two knights press the assault. Archers strike from above. At their center, Wiegraf fights. Precise, unrelenting. Sword art skills. When he falters, there is no repentance, only a declaration. "The Aries Stone is my shield." And then he vanishes. Alma is gone. The church has claimed both stone and sister. The betrayal is complete. The path ahead shrouded in a heavier darkness. Ramza bursts into the monastery courtyard, just as the grim retreat begins. Isilud is already mounted, Alma forced before him on the chocobo's saddle. Her voice, a singular cry, not of panic, but a desperate warning. Echoes, then fades as they vanish into the distance. The stone secured, the hostage taken, the extraction complete. Ramza gives chase, but the distance widens with agonizing swiftness. This abduction, a cruel echo of Orbonne's rain-soaked prologue, sears itself into the monastery's dark history. Behind him, Wiegraf collapses to one knee, blood staining the temple stone a dark, accusing crimson. His earlier resolve has shattered, replaced by a raw, crushing despair. He speaks not of victory, but of Meluda, of promises broken, of a cause left tragically unfinished. From his robes, the Aries Orosite tumbles. It does not lie still. The stone rises, an insidious voice threading into the air, offering union, strength, endurance beyond death. It speaks not to ambition, but to the profound abyss of Wiegraf's despair. Ramza warns him, the words torn from his throat. The power is deception. Wiegraf does not argue. He yields. Light coils, writhes, and reshapes his very flesh. The voice that emerges from the twisting form is no longer wholly his, but the guttural roar of Belias the Gigas. The Lucavi does not linger, departing in a rush of dark power, leaving Ramza in stunned, shattered silence. Elder Simon stumbles from the vaults, a worn, ancient volume pressed into Ramza's hands. The Scriptures of Saint Germanique. Within its pages lies the unvarnished truth of the Zodiac Braves, a history carefully obscured. Simon, his face etched with ancient guilt, confesses his complicity in the Church's decay, his silence a shroud of their corruption. Then, with a final, shuddering breath, he dies. Power has claimed its vessel. Truth has found its bearer. The monastery now bears witness to a chilling metamorphosis and a damning revelation. Rain, a ceaseless lament, scourges the merchant city of Dorter. Its relentless drumming drives the populace indoors, shutters falling like weary eyelids, until the cobbled streets yield only to stragglers and the occasional shrouded merchant. Ramza moves through the downpour. A solitary figure, the damning weight of the Scriptures of Saint Germanique concealed beneath his sodden cloak. His passage, however, is not destined to be unchallenged. A foreign mage, composed as ancient stone, unhurried, as if the encounter were already carved into fate, steps into his path. There is no surprise, only a chilling certainty. He addresses Ramza by the moniker the Church has now branded upon him, Heretic. No attempt at disguise, no subtle threat, only cold, hard instruction. Alma, he states with chilling clarity, has been taken to Riovanes Castle. If Ramza harbors any desire to see her again, he will journey there himself, and he will bring the Scriptures. Ramza, defiant despite the tremor in his soul, demands the reason for the book's sudden, pivotal importance. A flicker, perhaps of faint amusement, perhaps of ancient wariness, crosses the mage's face. Surely, Ramza Beoulve, you have read what you carry. Surely you grasp the perilous value of forbidden truth. Whether Ramza has delved into its pages or not, the answer changes nothing. He is not in a position to negotiate with destiny. The instructions are stark, absolute. Riovanes. The book. No delay. The mage turns, a shadow swallowed by the weeping sky, and disappears into the tumultuous rain. Dorter resumes its monotonous rhythm of water and distant commerce. Ramza remains, a statue carved of dread, finally understanding. The Church no longer hunts him. It commands him. It summons him to his fate. Alone, beneath the indifferent Zeltenian sun, Ovelia watches pigeons scatter, their fleeting movements echoing her own fractured sense of self. The crown, a cold weight upon her brow, confers no solace, only a searing reminder of the lie it represents. If her blood holds no claim to royalty, what essence remains? What desolate purpose has her life of confinement, obedience, and isolating grandeur ever really served? Delita approaches, unescorted, his presence a quiet intrusion upon her grief. His initial, almost teasing address quickly softens, sensing her withdrawal. He does not refute her despair. He validates it, confirming her deepest fears. She is not the princess the realm believes her to be. Perhaps, he murmurs, she was never meant for such a hollow charade. He weaves his own tale in grim parallel. A commoner donned in nobleman's raiment, a puppet dancing to unseen hands. He speaks of a world that devours effort, rewarding only those who feast upon its spoils. A stage where most perform without ever truly knowing their role. He claims he is done with such performance. He promises to set aflame the kingdom that consumed them both. From its ashes, a new world shall rise, one worthy of her. A world cleansed of shadow, where her tears need never fall. This vow, a chilling pact, he seals upon the memory of Titra's shattered soul. Ovelia, drawn by the potent blend of shared sorrow and audacious vision, steps forward first. Delita accepts her embrace, a silent communion. In that moment, born of grief and nurtured by burgeoning ambition, a dark trust takes root. The slopes of Grow Heights, churned to a viscous mud by the incessant rain, form a dismal stage. The figures who rise to bar Ramza's path are not the hardened zealots of the church, nor the disciplined ranks of any duke. They are mere remnants. 2 squires, their blades scarred and dull. 2 chemists, their satchels clinging precariously to dwindling remedies. A lone thief. His movements fluid, but his spirit frayed. An archer whose bowstring quivers less from tension than from profound exhaustion. Their fight is not for banner or lord, but for a far more desperate currency. Absolution. With the heretic's head, they cling to the fragile hope that their own desertion might be forgiven, that they might return home, if not with honor, then at least without shame. The chemists, a frantic dance, strive to mend the faltering line. The archer, a ghost in the mist, seeks the scant advantage of elevation. The thief, a blur of motion, seeks to disarm rather than destroy. The squires advance, driven by the cold weight of obligation, not the fire of zeal. Ramza, his voice raw, attempts to stay their desperate blades, but the clamor of their fear has already drowned out reason. The clash, born of desperation and misplaced hope, is tragically brief. When the last parry falters and the last plea is silenced, the hill settles into a heavy quiet. Senseless bloodshed, like Gollund, Dorter, Lesalia, and countless battles before it. The rain continues its steady, mournful descent, washing over broken bodies and shattered dreams. Ramza stands amidst the fallen, his gaze fixed on the distant, muddy road. The faint drumming of approaching chocobos, a growing murmur in the downpour, portends a reckoning. What follows, he senses with a chilling certainty, will bear a weight far greater than this tragic skirmish. Ramza stands amidst the freshly fallen. No fanfare accompanies the silence of the deserters. They were not fanatics, but weary souls seeking grace through spilled blood. His gaze, distant and burdened, tracks the muddy road below as the rhythmic thud of approaching chocobos grows clearer, then closer. A glint of metal, a black lion's sigil, breaks through the gray. Orin Durai, ascendant upon the waterlogged slope, is flanked by the familiar, resolute figures of Southern Sky Knights. The crest emblazoned upon his breast leaves no room for doubt. He rides under the revered banner of Count Sidolphus Orlandu, the Thunder God himself. Orin offers a detached gratitude for Ramza's unwitting aid in culling the deserters, yet his words carry no trace of triumph. Desertion, he observes, is a tragedy, not a cause for celebration. He acknowledges recognizing Ramza from the ubiquitous handbills, a recognition he chose to set aside. His orders concern only those who flee their posts, not a hunted heretic already pursued by his own. Ramza, his voice a low growl against the storm, questioned the Southern Sky's continued engagement in this ceaseless conflict. Orin's reply is steeped in grim fatalism. As long as the White Lion points its blade at them, they must respond. Yet, even he harbors no illusions that the lowering of one sword would compel the other to sheathe its own. The war, a monstrous entity, possesses a momentum far beyond the petty pride of dukes. Ramza speaks of veiled figures, of puppeteers behind curtains manipulating both warring factions, of ancient Zodiac Stones sought in secret. Orin listens, his seasoned eyes reflecting a deep, troubled knowledge. He confirms the insidious whispers surrounding the High Confessor's true designs, but laments the absence of irrefutable proof. If such evidence existed, he states with a cold certainty, the Thunder God would not remain idle. Before his departure, Orin bestows upon Ramza a gift more precious than gold in this fractured age. A sliver of hope. In the desolate landscape of betrayal and conflict, he reminds Ramza he is not without allies. In the grim confines of Yardrow's walled heart, before the clang of steel can shatter the silence, words, sharp as daggers, cut deeper still. Rapha, her voice a desperate plea, confronts her brother, Marach, with the brutal truth. Grand Duke Barrington, not justice, consumed their village, using their inherent power as instruments of his vile ambition. Marach, in a chilling denial, refuses her accusation. His strike, a swift, brutal silencing of both her voice and the terrible memory of what had been wrought. Then the true killing begins. Yardrow's labyrinthine streets offer no sanctuary, no refuge from the impending storm. Marach's retainers move with the chilling efficiency of practiced executioners. 3 ninjas, like shadows given form, melt into the rooftops and alleyways. 2 summoners, their faces impassive, recede into the relative safety of the rear, their hands already tracing arcane circles upon the dust-worn stone. This is no honorable duel. It is a calculated, swift annihilation. Rapha, exposed and vulnerable, stands at the nexus of this deadly choreography. A Skyseer by birthright, her gift remains untamed, unburdened by discipline. Her mantra magic answers no strict command. When she calls upon the heavens, bolts of raw force descend as they will, sometimes striking true with devastating, crystalline clarity, sometimes scattered harmlessly across the indifferent stone, a testament to power unleashed without precise control. Power she possesses in abundance, control far less so. Ramza's task is not merely to conquer, but to shield. Each deliberate advance, each parry, each calculated blow buys Rapha another precious moment to invoke the celestial fury. When her unpredictable magic finds its mark, it shatters enemy formations, momentarily turning the tide. When it does not, Ramza's steel must fill the void, his blade a desperate counterpoint to her chaotic energy. At last, the frenetic dance of death subsides. The ninjas fall, their forms collapsing into the shadows from which they emerged. The summoned light, once cracking with malevolent energy, flickers and fades. Rapha remains, her breath ragged, her spirit unbowed. Marach, however, has vanished, leaving only the bitter tang of betrayal in the rain-washed air. The clang of steel and the cries of the fallen recede, leaving only the oppressive silence of a city that has witnessed too much. Rapha, her breath still ragged, presses herself against the cold stone of the wall, her posture a brittle testament to an unbreakable will. No tears fall, for the well of her sorrow has run dry, long before Ramza's arrival. She confirms the chilling truth she had hurled at her brothers retreating back. Grand Duke Barrington, not a savior, but the architect of their ruin. Their village consumed by fire, their family shattered. Also their unique gifts, their innate power, could be seized, controlled, too valuable to be left to the whims of fate. Marach, she laments, refuses to see it, or perhaps cannot bear to. Ramza listens, his silence a heavy cloak. He has seen this insidious pattern before, a grim tapestry woven throughout Idealist. Power cloaked in false benevolence, protection masking the cruel hand of possession. The church wields the sacred stones, dukes rally behind their banners, and Barrington, with a chilling ruthlessness, exploits children. Rapha's voice, now imbued with a desperate certainty, paints her dire dilemma. She must follow to Riovanes. To flee alone is to be hunted relentlessly. To return alone is to face an inevitable, silent oblivion. Ramza understands the crushing weight of such inescapable choices. He offers no grand pronouncements, no hollow vows. Only this: she will not walk the treacherous path to Riovanes by herself. And with that solemn pledge, the road ahead grows darker still. The ancient Yeugwood, a place of somber repose, extends no welcome to those who trespass upon its shadowed paths. A chilling mist, like a shroud woven of memory and sorrow, clings to the gnarled roots. And beneath each footfall, the very earth feels disquieted, pregnant with unspoken history. From between the skeletal trees, the first incantation coils forth. 2 time mages, masters of temporal distortion, bend reality to their will, slowing the very sinews of movement, whilst hastening their allies into an unnatural predatory rhythm. Behind them, 2 black mages answer the unseen summons with eruptions of fire and thunder, their destructive spells tearing jagged wounds through the dense undergrowth. Then, from the sodden earth, the dead rise. Aghast, an ethereal whisper of former life drifts forward, its silent passage heralded by the shuffling gaits of a ghoul and the dragging despair of a revenant, both pulling broken memories behind hollow, vacant eyes. These are no random horrors, no mere creatures of the night. They are remnants, spectral afterimages of Ivalice's ceaseless violence, war dead left unburied from the brutal 50 Years' War, their bodies claimed by the earth, but their restless spirits forever bound to those haunted woods. Ivalice, in its grim refusal, never forgets its past transgressions. The Time Mages strive to ensnare Ramza's band in their cruel temporal stasis, while the Black Mages scorch the earth from their shielded advantage. The undead, heedless of pain or fear, advance without hesitation, driven by nothing save the agonizing imperative of an unfinished existence. Steel, honed to a razor's edge, sings as it cuts through the flesh long stilled. Holy light, a sacred balm, flares to drive back that which clings so tenaciously to the mortal coil. When the last revenant finally crumbles into dust, the Yeugwood descends once more into its oppressive quiet. Yet the ground beneath remembers. Within the foreboding walls of Riovanes Castle, Grand Duke Barrington, cloaked in an aura of false bravado, receives his grim assembly as if hosting cherished allies. Fulmarv, serene and inscrutable, stands opposite, a mask of composure betraying nothing. At his side, Wiegraf, clad in the Templar's gold, waits with a predatory stillness. Isilud, chastened by past failures, bears the visible weight of his missteps, while Marach, still tethered by a bond he mistakenly perceives as loyalty, lingers near the ambitious Duke. Barrington, oblivious to the true currents beneath the surface, speaks openly of power, not of inherited banners or hollow legitimacy, but raw, unvarnished might. He names the fabled Zodiac Stones as the true instruments of dominion, offering a supposed alliance. He boasts of seizing Tauros and Scorpio from Isilud's grasp, of his knowledge of the forbidden scriptures of Germanique, believing such leverage places him as an equal to the Church. Fulmarv, the master puppeteer, humors the Duke with a chilling grace. He denies belief in such ancient legends, downplays the stone's significance, feigns an ignorance that only thinly veils his contempt. Yet, the amusement dancing in his voice never truly fades. Barrington, emboldened, escalates his gambit. Should his terms be refused, he threatens to expose the church's clandestine designs to the rival dukes, knowing the scriptures would ignite a realm-wide conflagration. Folmar's patience, thin as spun glass, finally shatters. He no longer speaks as a humble cleric. He speaks as something ancient, something terrible, something else. Who, he asks, his voice now imbued with an otherworldly resonance, could possibly oppose them? Save feeble-bodied humans? Thunder, unbidden by sky or storm, answers. Gold light, brilliant and searing, coalesces at the very heart of the chamber. A scream, raw and primal, tears through the stone halls as power, long whispered about in shadowed corners, long hinted at by subtle signs, is finally unveiled without restraint. Barrington, who sought a convenient alliance, instead discovers the true, terrifying masters whom the Knights Templar truly serve. The colossal gates of Riovanes Castle groan upward, a slow, grinding lament of iron teeth against ancient stone, revealing the narrow killing ground beyond. Before them stands Marach, no longer pleading, but hardened by a chilling resolve. At his back, 3 knights form a disciplined bulwark, shields raised, their gazes fixed. Above, on the parapets, 3 archers stand silhouetted against the tumultuous sky, their arrows already trained on the approach. Rapha, a skyseer whose celestial power answers the heavens with unpredictable fury, remains steadfast at Ramza's side. Marach, her brother, wields the darker echo of that same mystic gift. A netherseer, his chilling incantations twist inward, summoning calamity down upon chosen ground with colder, more precise intent. He demands the scriptures, offering Alma's life in exchange. Rapha, with unwavering conviction, counters instantly. To surrender the book now is to relinquish all leverage, to condemn Alma to an unknown fate. Under a sky bruised purple and scarred by the coming storm, the battle ignites. A rain of arrows descends first, forcing Ramza's desperate band to advance through disciplined, deadly fire. The knights hold their formation, a living shield, buying precious moments for Marach's dark mantras to erupt in violent bursts across the courtyard. Rapha answers with her own celestial calls, sometimes scattering harmlessly, sometimes striking with a stunning, divine force. Brother and sister, tragically arrayed against each other, wage their bitter war in mirrored skyfire. Steel, forged in desperation, shatters the defensive line. Archers, caught unaware, plummet from their high posts. Marach falters, wounded, yet defiance burns in his eyes, refusing surrender. And above them all, thunder rolls over Riovanes, a deep, resonant growl, as though something ancient and terrible within the castle answers its call. Deep within the cold maw of Riovanes' dungeons, Alma endures a solitary vigil. The air, heavy with the damp breath of ancient stone, presses down, mirroring the weight of unanswered questions that plague her heart. Above, the tempest gathers its fury, and somewhere beyond these oppressive walls, Ramza, her brother, draws inexorably closer. She feels his approach, a flicker not of certainty, but of desperately clung to hope. Then the screaming begins. It is not the measured clamor of organized battle, nor the disciplined cadence of steel striking steel. No, this is something altogether different. A primal chorus of terror. A knight, a figure of shattered might, stumbles into her cell, his armor rent and broken, his breath a ragged whisper of life. He collapses at her feet, a ruined heap, his final words a guttural gasp of beast, claws, Fangs! Before the unforgiving cold claims him. Alma kneels, her hand seeking his, urging him to find strength, offering a silent prayer for his departing soul. He dies in her embrace. More cries, born of agony and despair, echo through the labyrinthine corridors. The sickening thud of bodies falling, a wave of panic, formless and absolute, surges through the fortress. The dungeon door, miraculously, stands ajar. Alma rises. The very power of Grand Duke Barrington, in his hubris, sought to command, has turned with savage hunger upon its host. Riovanes, once a bastion of negotiation and political ambition, has been transmuted into a crucible of judgment. With a resolve born not of certain knowledge, but of unwavering spirit, Alma steps into the blood-soaked corridor. Above her, thunder cleaves the sky, a booming herald of doom. And within the castle walls, something inhuman, something abominable, now walks. The corridor leading to the heart of the keep is a testament to carnage, lined with the fallen. Guards lie where they met their end, their armor grotesquely torn open by a force far more brutal than disciplined steel, a signature of the inhuman. At the far end, framed by the grim tableau, stands Wiegraf Foles, no longer merely a captain, nor a Templar subordinate. He is a man who has transcended both, stepping into a terrifying certainty. He does not turn immediately, for he knows Ramza is there. An inevitable convergence. When their eyes finally meet, the fury that once fueled Wiegraf is gone, replaced by a cold, unwavering conviction. "Draw your sword," he commands, a pronouncement rather than a challenge. Ramza obeys, not out of hatred, but out of a desperate necessity. He invokes the ghost of Maluda once more, questioning what she, his fallen sister, would make of the desolate path her brother now treads. The sinister power of the stone. The desperate bargain struck with the Lucavi. Wiegraf scoffs at the charge of simple revenge, claiming something far colder, far more profound. "The world of men is rotten," he pronounces, his voice devoid of emotion. "Gods are but illusions, fragile comforts fashioned for the weak. History belongs to those bold enough to seize it, to rewrite its truths. The masses, blinded, crave both miracles and chains with equal fervor. Those who truly understand this lie exploit its terrible power, or are crushed beneath its weight." Ramza's answer is stark and unyielding. "The Oracite is not liberation," he counters, his voice ringing with unwavering conviction. "It is surrender." Steel meets steel, a harsh, unforgiving clang echoing in the charnel house. There are no companions here, no comforting formations, no sanctuary. Only two men, inextricably bound by their starkly different responses to the gnawing maw of fear. Wiegraf presses his assault with a ruthless, almost ritualistic precision, striking as one who has shed all vestiges of hesitation. Ramza answers, not with a surge of rage, but with his ironclad resolve. Each parry and thrust driven by his refusal to yield to borrowed power. When Wiegraf finally falters, a profound expression crosses his face. It is not disbelief, but a dawning realization. Ramza is stronger than he ever allowed himself to believe. This duel, stripped bare of legend, devoid of banners and divine mandates, proves a truth no stone, however potent, could ever counterfeit. Human will still holds. The duel, a clash of ideology and steel, ends not in Wiegraf's defeat, but in his horrific apotheosis. Blue light, cold and searing, erupts from him, tearing at the very fabric of his being, fracturing the air, distorting his flesh. What now stands before Ramza is no longer the impassioned captain of the Corpse Brigade, but a monstrous silhouette of horned might and four-armed fury. Belias the Gigas. His presence alone bends the very chamber, the stone groaning under the weight of his malevolent power. For a terrifying, drawn-out moment, Ramza stands utterly alone, facing an ancient horror. Then steel sings from behind him, a sound of resolute defiance. Agria steps forward, her blade already a blur, cutting through the thick, oppressive air. Mustadio takes position at range, his firearms steady, unwavering, despite the tremors that ripple through the keep. The rest of Ramza's companions form up without hesitation, their movements honed by grim experience. They have faced this profane spectacle before. At Lionel, they bore witness as a cardinal shed his humanity, transforming into the grotesque Cuchulainn. They learned that the legends were veiled lies, the stones mere vessels for something ancient, corrupt, and terrifying. They learned that terror does not, and must not, mean defeat. Belias unleashes a bestial howl, and lesser demons, creature of flame and claw, surge into the keep, answering their master's call. This is no longer a duel of men. It is a purge, an eradication. Agrias drives forward with unwavering faith, her blade a beacon, cleaving through the summoned horrors. Mustadio's shots ring true, precise and unflinching, each round finding its mark. Ramza, at the vanguard, does not waver. Belias boasts of godly power, of knowledge spanning centuries, a cosmic arrogance born of eons. But Ramza's companions do not kneel. They have faced the Lucavi once, and by sheer will they lived. Now they face them again. When the Gigas finally falls, collapsing in a cascade of shattered demonic energy, it is not ancient myth that triumphs, nor divine intervention. It is unyielding spirit of men and women, forged in the crucible of battle, who refuse to bow. A heavy, unnatural silence descends upon the keep, suffocating the lingering echoes of battle. Belias the Gigas is gone, yet the air still hums with the vile residue of his profane passing. Ramza, his spirit already racing ahead, turns to run for Alma. But elsewhere, within the bloodstained castle, she has already stepped into a horror far more profound. The Grand Duke's chamber lies in utter ruin, a charnel house littered with bodies, a grim testament to a power unleashed and then turned upon its masters. Alma navigates the wreckage with cautious steps, her senses overwhelmed by the stench of death and the cold embrace of dread, until a faint, ragged voice pierces the oppressive quiet. Among the fallen, Isilud Tengille lies broken, his armor rent, his breath a shallow, struggling gasp. The arrogant pride that once defined him has been stripped away, leaving only a husk of a man. He tries to rise, a desperate, futile struggle, and fails. The Arasite, he rasps, his voice barely a whisper, a deathbed confession. No divine miracle. It is corruption. His father, he admits, had been irrevocably lost, transformed into one of the abhorrent Lucavi. Ramza was right, he murmurs, his dying words echoing a truth he had so vehemently denied. The stones must be stopped, or Evilise itself will fall into shadow. From within the tattered remnants of his doublet, he passes a final, weighty gift into Alma's trembling hand. The Pisces stone. She promises, her voice thick with sorrow, to deliver it. His eyes, once proud and filled with ambition, glaze over, and he dies in her arms. Then, footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoing with an unnerving lack of urgency. Fulmarv enters the chamber, a predatory calm emanating from his very being. He intends to extinguish her life as dispassionately as he has extinguished so many others. Until the Virgo stone, nestled within his hand, suddenly reacts. A cold, ethereal light answers Alma's presence, binding them in an ancient recognition. Dismissal vanishes, replaced by a chilling realization. She is not merely a hostage. She is quarry. Fulmarv moves with terrifying swiftness, seizing her, striking her down before she can utter a single cry of resistance, and vanishes in a blinding flash of light. The Pisces stone, entrusted to her with a dying breath, slips from her grasp and falls with a faint clatter, coming to rest beside Isilud's lifeless body. Ramza arrives. Too late. Again. The tempest had broken in full fury by the time Ramza clawed his way to the rooftop. Rain lashed down, mingling with the wind to create a cacophony that mirrored the chaos within the castle walls. There, silhouetted against the rolling, bruised sky, stood Rapha, her slender form a study in grief, sharpened into unforgiving resolve. Across from her, the Grand Duke Barrington, a man whose casual cruelty now hung heavy in the air. Her blade, a silver glint in the gloom, pointed accusingly as she named his crimes without hesitation. The inferno, the ravaged village, the insidious lie of rescue that had bound her to him. Barrington, ever the manipulator, answered with a sneer of contempt. "You owe me your life," he insisted, a venomous claim. "Without me, you would have perished in the rubble." He dared to call himself her father. Rapha's blade did not waver. Barrington, seeing his control slip, raised a pistol, its dark maw a stark contrast against the tumultuous sky. For a single, agonizing heartbeat, she hesitated. Not from doubt, but from the insidious tendrils of memory, of a twisted familial bond that refused to be severed. He saw it, the flicker of doubt, and moved to exploit it. "The flesh remembers," he rasped, his voice cutting through the storm. "Fear never truly leaves you." Then, the crack of a gunshot. Marach moved without thought, a blur of selfless devotion. The bullet, intended for Rapha, found its mark in him instead. He crumbled at her feet, a silent testament to a love stronger than fear. There was no time for grief, no space for sorrow in that desolate moment. Barrington, ever grasping at leverage, demanded the auracite from Marach's robes. And then the very air changed. A woman, a being of ethereal grace and terrifying power, stepped from the heart of the storm as though it parted for her command. Barrington, mid-sentence, was seized by the collar, lifted effortlessly into the rain-swept air, and then cast from the rooftop like so much refuse, swallowed by the darkness below. Marquis Elmdor approached. His movements unnervingly polite, measured. With Celia and Letty, twin shadows of menace, at his side. He surveyed the scene with a detached appraisal. Then, with an almost casual tone, requested the stone. Ramza, already scarred by loss and betrayal, refused. The assassins descended, their blades flashing in practiced arcs, a whirlwind of steel against shadow. Rapha, her grief and fury unleashed, stood at the center of the maelstrom, her Skyseer power lashing out unpredictably through the wind and lightning, a raw, uncontrolled force. Ramza held the line beside her, his own blade a bulwark against the encroaching darkness. When Elmdor finally withdrew, it was not defeat that guided his retreat, but a cold, calculated postponement. He left them with an ominous invitation, a new waypoint on their tragic journey. Limberry. Rapha, her strength abandoning her, knelt beside her fallen brother. And the storm, reflecting the unending sorrow, did not lighten. The storm had yet to relinquish its grip, but an unnerving silence had descended upon the battle-scarred rooftop, thick and heavy as the impending night. Marach lay motionless, a tragic silhouette against the slick stone, his blood a stark, deepening stain. Rapha knelt before him, her hands trembling uncontrollably, a futile attempt to steady the crushing weight of despair. Ramza stood guard, his blade lowered, but not sheathed, the air still thick with the residue of Elmdor's cruel departure. Though the assassins had vanished, a profound wrongness lingered, a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. Rapha refused to accept the grim truth her eyes presented. With desperate hands, she reached into Marach's robes, withdrawing the orosite he had carried, the very object of their anguish. The stone gleamed faintly in her palm, cold and luminous, a deceptive beacon. She had witnessed its corrupting power, seen it consume, distort, and transform men into monsters. Yet, she had also heard whispers of its sacred origins, of miracles woven from its ethereal light. With a profound, silent prayer, she pressed the stone to her brother's still chest. Light answered. Not the violent, soul-rending spiral that had claimed Wiegraf, nor the monstrous distortion that birthed Belias. This radiance was softer, focused, more pleading. A fragile halo of hope in the encroaching gloom. Through a torrent of tears, Rapha called to the heavens, not for vengeance, but for the precious gift of life itself. The stone responded. Marach's body convulsed once, a sudden jarring jolt. A ragged gasp tore from his lips, a breath stolen back from the precipice of death. His eyes fluttered open, confused, disoriented, but undeniably alive. Ramza, witness to this impossible resurrection, harbored no illusions. The orosite, he now understood, was not merely an instrument of destruction. It possessed the capacity for immense power, power that could mend and restore. Yet, even when it bestowed healing, even when it granted life anew, that power still demanded a terrible, unforgiving price. Riovanes Castle stood in an uneasy silence by morning, a desolate monument to ambition's ruin. The storm had passed, its aqueous fury spent, yet its devastating work remained etched upon every shattered stone. Grand Duke Barrington, once a puppet master of men, lay broken at the very base of his own walls, a pathetic husk. Knights, whose oaths of fealty had been divided between crown and church, now lay scattered like discarded dolls in the corridors they had once sworn to guard, their armor rent by wounds that spoke of something far beyond mortal combat. The proud banners of ambition had been replaced by the lingering scent of smoke and iron. Ramza searched, a desperate, solitary figure, until there was no chamber left untended, no shadow corner unglimpsed. Alma was gone, a phantom torn from his grasp. In the grand parlor, where whispers of negotiation had once woven tapestries of deceit, he found Isilud Tengille among the dead. the rigid certainty that had once defined the Knight Templar had ended in doubt, his life extinguished. Beside him, almost ironically, rested a Zodiac Stone, unclaimed, its surface dim in the unforgiving gray light. Another chilling fragment of a celestial constellation now assembling itself beyond the paltry grasp of human control. At Riovanes, more than lives ended. The comforting illusion that the Lion War could be contained within the ambitions of dukes and councils, that the church merely manipulated men for influence, that exposing corruption would be enough to halt its cancerous spread. All these delusions perished in the castle's ashes. The Lucavi had moved openly, their true monstrous forms unveiled. Alma had been taken, not as a mere hostage to secure a political advantage, but as a vessel, a conduit for their ancient, terrifying designs. Marach had spoken of light in return, of power shaped by the hand that wields it. Ramza did not dismiss the thought entirely, for he had seen the impossible miracle. Yet, neither did he fully embrace it. He had witnessed too much betrayal, too much destruction, to trust easily in such promises. His hand closed around the cold, resonant stone. This war, he knew, with a terrible clarity, was no longer a squabble over succession. It was about incarnation. Far beyond the skeletal remains of Riovanes, the orders of the northern and southern sky repositioned for strategic advantage. Fort Besselat loomed, a name whispered with growing dread, destined as the next flashpoint. Courtiers sharpened their rhetoric, preparing for a war they still misunderstood. The church continued its quiet maneuvering, oblivious to the true nature of the storm it had inadvertently helped to unleash. Chapter 3 did not end in victory. It ended in a chilling, cosmic escalation. The Valiant would rise in defense of crown and clergy. The mortal lions would continue their intricate dance of maneuver. The faithful would kneel in fervent prayer. And somewhere, beyond their limited sight, the Zodiac turned, its ancient gears grinding. The War of the Lions was no longer merely a struggle for a throne. It was a harrowing struggle for the very soul of the world that would inherit it.